Top English phrases for giving advice like a native. Mark: I'm so stressed about my job interview tomorrow, Anna. I really want this job, but I'm terrible at interviews. Anna: Mark, you are obligated to perform well. It is a requirement that you impress the interviewers with your skills. You must not fail. Hook: Has that ever happened to you? You see a friend who's struggling and you want to give them supportive, kind advice, but the words that come out just sound weird. They sound like they were written by a robot or copied from a dusty old textbook. You mean well, but your advice ends up feeling unnatural, cold, and it doesn't create that connection you were hoping for. If this feels familiar, you are not alone. It's an incredibly common problem for English learners. You spend so much time on grammar and vocabulary, but not enough on how real people actually talk. It's like having a garage full of brand new tools, saws, hammers, drills, but having no idea how to actually build a house. You have the parts, but not the skill to put them together in a way that works. You want to sound supportive, but you end up sounding like a strict teacher. The good news is, this is an easy fix. It isn't about learning hundreds of new words or complex grammar. It's about learning a few simple, powerful phrases that native speakers use all the time without even thinking. These are the phrases that instantly signal empathy and support. In this video, I'm going to share the top English phrases that will completely change how you give advice. We're going to learn the secret to sounding not just fluent, but also natural and genuinely supportive. By the end of this video, you'll have the tools to handle these situations with confidence. So, if you're ready to transform your English and become the supportive friend you've always wanted to be, let's get started. Introduction. Before we get to the phrases, let's quickly talk about why giving advice can be so tricky in a second language. There are a few key reasons. First, direct translation. A lot of learners think of an advice phrase in their own language and just translate it word for word into English. This is like trying to bake bread using a recipe for a cake. The ingredients might look similar, but the instructions are all wrong, and the final result is a disaster. Just like in our opening scene, "you are obligated to perform well" is a very literal way of saying something a native speaker would express much more softly. Second, there's the issue of tone. In English, how you say something is often just as important as the words you use. Think of it like an archer. Your words are the arrow, but your tone is the bow. A soft, gentle tone delivers the arrow carefully, while a demanding tone shoots it like a weapon. Textbook phrases like "you must" or "you should" can sound really forceful if you're not careful. We'll talk about how to fix that. Finally, English speakers use a lot of specific chunks of language for social situations. Think of these chunks like pre-built Lego models. Instead of searching for hundreds of tiny individual bricks, words, you can just grab a ready-made car or tree phrase that fits perfectly into your conversation. For giving advice, these chunks show empathy, making the advice feel like a suggestion from a friend, not an order from a boss. The solution is to stop thinking about individual words and start thinking in these chunks. Learning these key phrases will give you a mental toolbox you can pull from whenever you need it. In this lesson, we're breaking it all down. We'll start with the most common phrases for casual advice to friends and family. Then we'll move on to more formal phrases for professional settings. After that, we'll explore some fun, native-sounding idioms you can use. And finally, we'll cover the other side of the conversation, how to ask and respond to advice. This is going to be your complete guide, so grab a notebook and get ready to practice out loud. Section 1. The Foundation. Casual phrases for friends and family. This is where we'll spend most of our time, because you're usually giving advice to people you know well. These phrases are warm, friendly, and perfect for everyday conversations. Let's start with the most important one of all. Phrase 1. If I were you, I would. This phrase is pure gold and probably the most common way to give advice in English. It's so powerful because it's built on empathy. You're not telling the person what to do, you're imagining yourself in their situation, which instantly makes the advice feel softer and more personal. It's like saying, "Hey, we're on the same team. Here's what I would do if I were in your shoes." The structure is, if I were you, I would, followed by a simple verb. For example, if I were you, I would call him, or if I were you, I would get some rest. Now, you might be looking at the grammar, if I were you. Some of you might be thinking, shouldn't it be if I was you? And it's true, you will hear native speakers say, if I was you, informally, but the grammatically correct and most common form is if I were you. This is called the subjunctive mood. Think of it like a what-if button in your mind. Since you can't actually be the other person, the word were signals that you're entering a hypothetical, imaginary scenario. My advice, stick with if I were you. It always sounds right.
Situation. Your friend is exhausted from working too much. Instead of, you must sleep more, sounds demanding. Use this. Wow, you look exhausted. If I were you, I would take the rest of the day off and just relax. Situation. Your brother is nervous about asking for a raise. Instead of, you should ask for more money, a bit blunt, use this. I get that you're nervous, but you deserve it. If I were you, I would schedule a meeting with your boss and make a list of your accomplishments. Situation. Your friend can't decide whether to move for a job. Instead of, move to the new city, too direct. Use this. That's a huge decision. If I were you, I would make a list of all the pros and cons for each choice. That might make it clearer. Now it's your turn. I'll say the phrases, and you repeat them out loud after me. This is called shadowing, and it's one of the best ways to improve your fluency. Let's go. Listen and repeat. If I were you. Listen and repeat. If I were you, I would take the day off. Listen and repeat. If I were you, I would schedule a meeting. Listen and repeat. If I were you, I would make a list of pros and cons. Great job! One quick tip, try to avoid this phrase for simple, low-stakes advice. If a friend asks, should I get the blue shirt or the red one? Saying, if I were you, I would get the blue shirt, sounds a bit too serious. In that case, something simple like, I like the blue one, works much better. Save, if I were you, for more important decisions. Another great way to give advice is to ask a question. Phrase 2. Why don't you? This is a fantastic phrase that turns your advice into a soft suggestion. It's the difference between pushing someone through a door and simply opening it for them. You're inviting them to consider the idea, not forcing them to act. The structure is simple. Why don't you, followed by a simple verb. Let's look at some examples. Situation. Your friend is complaining they're bored. Instead of, find a hobby, use this. Why don't you try joining a hiking club? You always say you love being outdoors. Situation. Your colleague is stressed because they have too much work. Instead of, you must delegate tasks, use this. You have a lot on your plate. Why don't you talk to our manager about getting some help with this project? Situation. Your friend is upset after an argument with their partner. Instead of, you should apologize, use this. It sounds like it was just a misunderstanding. Why don't you give him a call later when you've both cooled down? Notice how it gently opens the door to a solution without being pushy. Let's practice this one together. Get ready to shadow. Listen and repeat. Why don't you? Listen and repeat. Why don't you try joining a hiking club? Listen and repeat. Why don't you talk to our manager about getting some help with this project? Listen and repeat. Why don't you give him a call later when you've both cooled down? Excellent. A key thing here is your intonation. Your voice should go down at the end of the sentence, like you're making a suggestion. If your voice goes up, it can sound like a real critical question, like, why don't you call him? What's wrong? We want that gentle, falling intonation to keep it soft. Let's move on to our next phrase. Phrase 3. Have you thought about? This is another question-based phrase, and it's brilliant for suggesting something the other person may not have considered. It's like you see your friend trying to hammer in a screw. You can say, have you thought about using a screwdriver? It shows you respect their effort, but are offering a potentially better tool. The structure is, have you thought about ing verb? Let's see it in action. Situation. Your friend wants to get in shape but hates the gym. Instead of, you need to exercise, use this. Have you thought about trying something different, like a dance class or rock climbing? That could be more fun. Situation. Your sister is running out of money every month. Instead of, don't spend so much,
It can be tough to manage. Have you thought about using a budgeting app to track your spending? I know it's challenging. Have you thought about finding a language exchange partner to practice speaking with? This phrase is wonderful because it's so non-confrontational and empowers the other person to think for themselves. Okay, practice time. Let's shadow together. Listen and repeat. Have you thought about? Listen and repeat. Have you thought about trying a dance class? Listen and repeat. Have you thought about using a budgeting app? Listen and repeat. Have you thought about finding a language exchange partner? Fantastic work! A close cousin to this phrase is, have you considered? It means the exact same thing and uses the same structure. Have you considered using a budgeting app? It sounds a tiny bit more formal, but both are great choices. Now, for a more direct, but still friendly approach. Phrase 4. You should probably, or maybe you should. You already know the phrase, you should, but on its own, it can sometimes sound a little strong. Adding probably or maybe is like wrapping a hard object in foam padding. The message is still there, but the delivery is much softer and gentler on impact. Compare these. You should quit your job. That's really strong. Maybe you should quit your job. Softer, just an idea. You should probably look for a new job. Even softer, suggests it's a reasonable idea. Let's look at some examples. Situation. Your friend has had a headache all day. Instead of, take some medicine, use, you've had that headache for hours. You should probably take some aspirin and lie down for a bit. Situation. Your roommate is always late with their share of the rent. Instead of, you must pay on time, use, hey, I'm a little worried about the rent. Maybe you should set up an automatic bank transfer so you don't forget. Situation. Your car is making a weird noise. Instead of, fix your car, use, that noise doesn't sound good. You should probably get that checked out by a mechanic. These small words make a huge difference in tone. Let's get to our shadowing practice. Listen and repeat. You should probably. Listen and repeat. Maybe you should. Listen and repeat. You should probably take some aspirin. Listen and repeat. Maybe you should set up an automatic bank transfer. You're doing great. Remember, the goal is to sound supportive, not bossy. These little softeners are your best friends. Section 2. Sounding professional. Formal phrases for work and official situations. Okay, let's switch gears and talk about the workplace. Giving advice in a professional context is different. You need to be more careful, polite, and indirect. Your choice of words here is critical. Here are the phrases that will make you sound polished and respectful. Formal phrase 1. I would recommend. This is the formal version of you should. It positions you as a helpful expert, not a boss.
It's the difference between a military commander shouting, "You must advance," and a doctor saying, "I would recommend getting more rest." It's polite, professional, and clear. The structure is "I would recommend" followed by an ing verb. Let's see some examples. Situation. In a meeting, a colleague suggests a risky strategy. Instead of, "That's a bad idea, we should do this." Too confrontational. Use, "That's an interesting perspective. Given the potential risks, though, I would recommend doing a bit more market research before we commit." Situation. A new employee asks for advice on managing their workload. Instead of, "You have to use a calendar," use, "It can be overwhelming at first. I would recommend using a digital calendar to block out time for your most important tasks." Situation. A client is unhappy with a project's progress. Instead of, "You need to be patient," never say this. Use, "I understand your concerns. To make sure we're aligned, I would recommend scheduling a weekly check-in call so we can review progress together." This phrase positions you as a helpful expert. Let's practice the pronunciation. Ready to shadow?
Listen and repeat. I would recommend. Listen and repeat. I would recommend conducting more market research. Listen and repeat. I would recommend using a digital calendar. Listen and repeat. I would recommend scheduling a weekly check-in call. Wonderful! You can also use the structure, I would recommend that you, followed by a simple verb, like, I would recommend that you schedule a weekly call. Both forms are perfectly professional. Let's look at another highly useful formal phrase. Formal phrase 2. It might be advisable to. This phrase is very formal and indirect. It's like presenting a finding from a scientific report. Instead of saying, I think we should stop, you say, the data suggests it might be advisable to pause. This removes your personal opinion and presents the advice as an objective, wise course of action. It's excellent for giving advice to your boss on a sensitive topic. The structure is, it might be advisable to, followed by a simple verb. Here are some examples. Situation. Your department is about to launch a product, but you found a major flaw. You have to tell your boss. Instead of saying, we can't launch this, we have to delay it, which might cause panic, use this. I was reviewing the final tests and I have a few concerns. It might be advisable to postpone the launch by a week to address these issues. Situation. A colleague is about to send an angry email to a client. Instead of saying, don't send that email, use this. I can see you're frustrated. Before you send that, it might be advisable to have someone else read it over, just for a second opinion. Situation. Your company is considering a major financial investment. Instead of saying, this is too risky, use this. Given the current market volatility, it might be advisable to consult with our financial advisors one more time before finalizing the decision. This phrase shows great tact and is incredibly professional. Time for our formal practice. Let's shadow this sophisticated phrase. Listen and repeat. It might be advisable to. Listen and repeat. It might be advisable to postpone the launch. Listen and repeat. It might be advisable to have someone read it over. Listen and repeat. It might be advisable to consult with our financial advisors one more time. Excellent! This phrase is a powerful tool for navigating tricky professional situations with diplomacy.
Our final formal phrase is a polite and intelligent-sounding question. Have you considered? We briefly mentioned this one earlier. In a formal context, have you considered is often the preferred choice over have you thought about. It works the same way by offering a new idea as a question, but its tone is more professional. The structure is have you considered followed by an ing verb. Let's see it in a professional setting. Situation. In a brainstorming session, the team is stuck on one idea. Instead of saying, my idea is better, use this. Building on that point, have you considered approaching the problem from the customer's perspective? Situation. Your manager is planning a project timeline that seems way too short. Instead of saying, this is impossible, we don't have enough time, use this. I appreciate the ambitious timeline. Have you considered adding a few buffer days for any unexpected delays?
Situation number 2. A client wants a feature that is technically very difficult. Instead of, we can't do that, use, that's a creative idea. The current system might not support it directly, but have you considered an alternative solution that could achieve a similar result? This phrase shows that you are a collaborative and thoughtful team player. Let's do our final formal shadowing practice. Listen and repeat. A bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. Listen and repeat. Your current job is secure. A bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. Using these idioms correctly will make you sound incredibly natural. Just remember to keep them in informal situations. Section 4. The other side of the coin. Asking for and responding to advice. A conversation is a two-way street, so it's just as important to know how to ask for advice and how to respond to it. How to ask for advice. If you're the one who needs help, you can use simple phrases like, what do you think I should do? Direct and clear. What would you do in my situation? Invites the other person to use, if I were you. I could really use your advice on something. A good way to start the conversation. I'm at a loss here. Any ideas? To be at a loss means you have no idea what to do. How to respond to advice. When someone gives you advice, you can either accept it or reject it. Accepting advice. If you think the advice is helpful, you can say, that's a great idea. I hadn't thought of that. You're right, I'll give it a try. That's a good point. I'll do that. Thanks, that's really helpful. Politely rejecting advice. Sometimes you get advice you don't agree with. It's important to be polite. Think of it like receiving a gift that isn't your style. You wouldn't say, I hate it. You would thank the person for the gift first, acknowledging their kindness, before deciding what to do with it. The key is to acknowledge their effort first before you say no. I appreciate the suggestion, but I think I'm going to try something different. That's an interesting idea, but I'm not sure it would work for me. Thanks for the advice, but I feel like I need to handle this my own way.
I see what you're saying, but I have a different feeling about it. This is so much more polite than just saying no. You're showing that you value their input even if you choose a different path. Integration practice, the after scene. Okay, let's put it all together. Remember that awkward scene from the beginning? Let's replay it, but this time, Anna knows how to give advice like a natural. Mark, I'm so stressed about my job interview tomorrow, Anna. I really want this job, but I'm terrible at interviews. Oh no, sorry to hear that. Interviews are tough. If I were you, I would try not to put too much pressure on yourself. You're brilliant at what you do, and they'll see that.
I guess I'm just worried I'll forget what to say. I get that. Why don't you and I do a practice run tonight? I can ask you some common questions and you can practice your answers. It might help you feel more confident. Really? You'd do that? Of course. And have you thought about preparing a few stories that show off your biggest successes? That way you have them ready to go. I hadn't thought of that. That's a great idea. It just feels like so much to prepare. I know, but just focus on the most important things. Don't bite off more than you can chew. The practice run will help. We'll get you ready. Thanks, Anna. That's really helpful. I feel a little better already. See the difference? It's night and day. In the second version, Anna is supportive, empathetic, and genuinely helpful. She used, if I were you, why don't you, have you thought about, and even an idiom. She connected with Mark and actually helped him. This is the power of using the right phrases. All right, we covered a lot today. We learned the best phrases for friendly, casual advice, like, if I were you. We moved on to polite, professional phrases for the workplace, like, I would recommend. We even added some color with idioms, like, don't bite off more than you can chew. And we finished by learning how to ask for and respond to advice. The most important thing to take away from this is that sounding natural isn't about being perfect, it's about connection. These phrases are the tools that build that connection. But just watching this video isn't enough. You have to practice. So here's your homework. I want you to practice giving advice right now. In the comments below, I'm going to post a problem. I want to improve my English speaking skills, but I'm too shy to talk to native speakers. Your task is to write a comment responding to me. Give me your best advice using one of the phrases we learned today. You could say, if I were you, I would, or have you thought about? I'll read as many of your comments as I can and give you feedback. It's your chance to practice in a safe space. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow and lets me know you enjoy this kind of lesson. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next video. Thank you so much for learning with me today. Keep practicing, don't be afraid to make mistakes, and I'll see you in the next one.